Now, fans of this programme will know that I am a sucker for a good space story, and today I have a good one. NASA has unveiled its next generation spacesuit. It will be lighter, it will be more flexible, and you'll be able to wear it for longer periods of time. They'll be worn by astronauts on the 2025 Artemis mission to the moon. Here is the NASA Associate Administrator, Bob Cabana.
We are going to learn how to operate on the moon for extended periods of time and learn how to operate away from planet Earth and utilize the resources on the moon. And all of this is in preparation for eventually going on to Mars. And we're making those first steps now. We got to have an EVA mobility suit in order to make that happen. And this is the suit that's going to do it.
Astronaut suits have not changed much over the last 60 years or so. The suit for Project Mercury, that was NASA's first manned space flight program in 1958, was a modified version of a suit and the sort of suit that a Navy fighter pilot would wear. But then came the iconic suit that you'll all remember from the Apollo missions in the 60s and the 70s, the last time man was on the moon. And after a few tweaks and updates, the general look of them was pretty similar. In fact, if you are a really keen watcher of this show, you might just recognise the astronaut in that picture. He is, of course, our friend and former NASA astronaut, once commander of the International Space Station, Leroy Chiao. Good to see you again, Leroy. There's some great history around the original design. That first one we saw looks a bit like something straight out of Flash Gordon. But tell us how they've developed and who was involved in these original designs.
Sure. Well, the original spacesuits evolved, as you pointed out, from pressure suits that the Air Force used in the very beginning to the moon suits that were used during the Apollo program, and then they evolved to basically the space station era spacesuits that have been in use for a number of decades. I myself have worn that suit multiple times. Went out on 4 spacewalks using that suit. The Russian spacesuit, I've also done 2 spacewalks in. Very similar ideas, although executed a little bit differently. And now this advanced suit. First of all, the spacesuit we've been using for the last several decades, there was no requirement to be able to walk. That is, the Apollo spacesuits were developed so that you could actually move your legs and move around on the moon. So this spacesuit will also have that feature. Astronauts will be able to move their legs around, and they may find, though, that just like the Apollo astronauts did, that it's easier to kind of bunny hop along the surface of the moon. But it's very similar fundamentally, as you pointed out. All the systems are the same, but they've been updated and, upgraded, if you will. And so it's a modern version of what used to be.
Ah, yeah, we can see him bending down there, much more flexible. Why is it not white?
Oh, it will be. The one that goes to the moon will be white. That's for thermal reasons, of course, to keep the suit cooler, to reflect the sun's heat away as much as possible. So it will be white. The one that unveiled today would actually had a fake cover on it that was designed by a designer, an artist that the Axiom hired, the contractor hired to create. And so it will look similar, but it will definitely be white.
Yeah, from Flash Gordon to Buzz Lightyear, it's much more modern, isn't it? Tell me what it's like being in the spacesuit, though. When you're wearing it, I know you're busy and you're focusing on the spacewalk, but are you ever concerned about leaks in the suit?
Oh, of course. You're very, very much aware of the heightened risk that you're under when you're in a spacesuit. Some of the earlier mission controllers and most notably, the very first one said that, he hated spacewalks because you're one failure away from killing someone. That's what he used to say. And that's true because you are more exposed. You're out there. A spacesuit is a personal spacecraft. It's got all the systems in it to keep you alive, life support systems that provide oxygen, scrub the carbon dioxide out, maintains the pressure, thermal control system to maintain the temperature inside the suit.
And where's the information for that? Is it on a watch? Is it in the screen on your helmet? Where is it?
Yeah, traditionally it's been on a module on your chest called the display and control module, and it displays those critical parameters for you. And also the suit will feature alarms if, for example, you start developing a leak or any other anomaly, high carbon dioxide inside the suit, things like that. So all that information will be in the suit and will also be able to be transmitted back to the Mission Control Center on the ground.
Right. Let's bring in our panel at this point. How tall are you, Justine?
5'4".
5'4", because the design feature of this suit is is that it's been made for almost any size, with plans for tourism in mind. So you've no excuse anymore, Justine.
No, I was actually thinking I could do with that when I'm washing the patio next Saturday. But it didn't look like the most comfortable thing to put on, I have to say. And of course, this moon mission will have the first woman on the moon, so it'll have to be changed for her.
Oh, that's a good point. Leroy, has it been adapted for women astronauts?
There has been some difficulty in the past, and I'm sure there are challenges with this suit, and it just has to do with scaling, the sizing of the suit. You know, because the harsh environment of space, you have to have multiple layers in the garments. It's not just a thin piece of fabric or rubber or anything like that. It's multiple layers of insulation and things like that. And so when you get down to things like the gloves, for example, the thickness of the material, if you've got shorter fingers, now, the ratio of the width and to the length, it's going to be more difficult to move your fingers, right? And that's one of the key things of any spacesuit is moving your fingers and arms in a pressurized environment. It's not like the movies at all. It's not effortless. It takes a lot of physical effort. In fact, the first thing you do if you're scheduled to do a spacewalk is to physically train and have a physical trainer to make sure that you have the strength and the stamina to perform what is usually a 6.5-hour task.
Yes, that's good news, Amisha. I think I always fantasize about going into space, but I think I would be clinging on for dear life. So the idea of the new gloves, which are much more supple, that appeals to me.
No, this looks amazing, and I am excited that there is going to be a woman in this process. As somebody who is 5'11", just under 6 feet, for me, the idea of anything that says that it's a one-size-fits-all is like, I don't know about all of that. But I do have faith in this process, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I do recall that, there is a significant amount of training that goes into putting on the suit and being able to get around, even for the males who've done it. I think that the movies have done a huge disservice in making it look a whole lot easier than it actually is.
And just very quickly, final one, Leroy, presumably you can exist outside the spacecraft for a longer period of time in this suit. And that's because, of course, these expeditions to the moon and then beyond that to Mars are going to tax the astronauts in a much different way.
Right. So your limiting factor on any spacesuit is either your oxygen supply or your battery, right? So power or oxygen. And so that's going to remain a little bit unchanged. There's only, you're going to have high pressure bottles of oxygen to supply that and an even higher pressure reserve oxygen bottle. Batteries, of course, technology has moved quite a bit. So, maybe power will no longer be a constraint, but just how much oxygen you can reasonably carry in a small, compact backpack is going to be probably the limiting factor. So I wouldn't expect the time that you spend outside to be much more than what it is today, which is right around planned 6.5, maybe extendable to around 8 hours.
I learned so much. The little boy comes out in me when Leroy comes on this programme. It's great to see you again, Leroy. Thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.